You open the app. You don't even remember deciding to. 1 second, you were doing something else. Maybe lying in bed, maybe waiting for something, maybe just breathing. And then your thumb was already moving, already scrolling, already inside. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a quiet part of you noticed, a part that said, "How did I get here again?" But you kept scrolling anyway. That moment right there, that tiny gap between awareness and action, that's not weakness. That's not poor discipline. Most people get told it is. Most people carry this low-level guilt about their screen time, this creeping shame about how many hours disappeared into a feed, this feeling that they're somehow failing at self-control while everyone else seems perfectly fine. But here's what nobody tells you. You were never in a fair fight. What's actually happening inside your brain when you open one of these apps has nothing to do with willpower. It has everything to do with systems, extraordinarily sophisticated, deliberately engineered systems designed by some of the most talented behavioral scientists on the planet, whose entire job was to study how your psychology works and then build something that fits around it like a mold, something your brain would return to, not because you chose to, but because it was shaped to feel like you did. This is the real psychology behind why social apps feel so impossible to put down. And it starts somewhere most people never look. It starts with uncertainty. B.F. Skinner was a behavioral psychologist who ran an experiment in the 1950s that quietly changed how we understand human motivation. He put rats in boxes with levers. When a rat pressed a lever, it got a food pellet. But in one version of the experiment, the pellet didn't come every time. Sometimes it came, sometimes it didn't. Completely random, no pattern, no logic. The rats that got food every single time, they pressed the lever calmly, ate, and moved on. The rats on the random schedule, they couldn't stop pressing. They pressed compulsively, obsessively, long after they were full. The uncertainty didn't discourage them. It made them more desperate, more locked in. Psychologists call this variable reward reinforcement, and your brain responds to it in exactly the same way. Every time you pull down to refresh a feed, you are pressing that lever. Sometimes there's something good, a message that matters, a post that makes you laugh, a piece of news that feels relevant. Sometimes there's nothing. The randomness is not a glitch in the design. The randomness is the design. Your brain releases dopamine not just when you find a reward, but in anticipation of a reward that might come. The scroll itself becomes the hit. The waiting becomes the pull. But the designers didn't stop there, because they understood something even deeper about how humans are wired. We are social creatures at a neurological level, full stop. For most of human history, being accepted by your group was not a preference, it was a survival mechanism. Social rejection didn't just hurt feelings, it could mean exclusion, and exclusion for most of human existence could mean death. So the brain evolved over thousands of years to treat social signals as urgent information. The approval of others is processed in the same neural regions that process physical pain and physical threat. Every like, every comment, every notification badge, your brain registers those as social data, as signals about where you stand, whether you're seen, whether you matter. And the apps know this. They delay notifications on purpose. They bundle them. They time them at calculated intervals so that when you do check, there's always something waiting. They engineered the delivery of your social feedback to hit the emotional centers of your brain as precisely as possible. This isn't accidental design. Former employees at some of the largest social platforms have said publicly that the metrics they were optimizing for were not user satisfaction, not well-being, not meaningful connection. The metric was time on platform, raw engagement. How long could they keep you inside before you remembered you had somewhere else to be? And the most sophisticated tool they built for that goal is something researchers call social comparison architecture. When you scroll through a feed, you are not seeing reality. You are seeing a curated version of other people's lives,
algorithmically selected to show you things that will provoke a reaction, content calibrated to make you feel slightly inadequate, slightly curious, slightly behind. Leon Festinger's social comparison theory, developed in 1954, showed that humans instinctively measure themselves against others. We can't stop it. It's how we calibrate our own sense of progress, status, and belonging. But in natural life, you compare yourself to the people around you, your actual peers, your real community, people living in similar circumstances, with similar access and similar struggles. On a social platform, the algorithm can serve you the top 1% of highlight reels from millions of people simultaneously. Your brain is trying to do something ancient and deeply human, make sense of where you stand, but the inputs it's receiving are entirely artificial, constructed, selected for maximum emotional charge.
The result is this low, persistent hum of inadequacy, a feeling that your life is somehow less, that other people are lighter, more successful, more loved. And that feeling, that slight emotional discomfort, keeps you scrolling for more data to resolve it, which gives the algorithm more information about what provokes you, which makes the next feed more targeted, which keeps you inside longer. The loop feeds itself. And here's the part that rarely gets said out loud. The people who feel this most intensely are often not the weakest people in the room. Research consistently shows that individuals with high empathy, high social sensitivity, and deep interpersonal awareness are more vulnerable to these loops, not because they're fragile, but because their nervous systems are calibrated to read social signals with incredible precision. The same trait that makes someone a warm, attuned, deeply perceptive human being also makes them more responsive to a system that weaponizes social feedback at scale. The counterintuitive truth is this: the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more finely tuned your social radar, the more susceptible you may be to an environment specifically engineered to exploit that sensitivity. It's not a flaw. It's your strength being used against you. And there's a quiet cost that comes with this that people rarely name. It's not just the time, it's the attentional residue. Research on cognitive load shows that even after you close an app, your mind continues to process the social information you absorbed, the comparisons, the reactions, the unresolved emotional pings. You might be physically present in your life, sitting at dinner, talking to someone, lying in the dark, but a portion of your mental bandwidth is still inside the feed, still processing, still running the loop. You were never broken. You were just precise, in an environment that was built to exploit precision. Knowing this doesn't automatically change the behavior. The brain doesn't update its patterns simply because it receives information. Insight alone rarely rewires a loop. But there is one practical shift that actually creates traction. It's called implementation intention. Research led by psychologist Peter Gollwitzer shows that the most effective way to interrupt an automatic behavior is not to resolve to stop it in the abstract. It's to design a specific, concrete response for the exact moment the trigger hits. Not, "I'll use my phone less." That's too vague. The brain doesn't respond to vague. Instead, when I pick up my phone and feel the pull toward a specific app, I will place the phone face down, take 3 slow breaths, and then decide with full intention whether I actually want to open it. That pause, that 3-breath gap, is where your prefrontal cortex gets the chance to come back online. It's where choice re-enters the moment. It won't feel dramatic. It won't feel like a transformation, but over time, that small and deliberate interruption begins to recalibrate the automatic loop at a neurological level. The pause becomes a habit, and eventually the habit becomes a kind of freedom. The system was built to remove that pause entirely. Bringing it back, even briefly, even imperfectly, is how you take the lever out of the box. If something here landed, if something felt familiar in a way you couldn't quite name before now,
There's more of this. The psychology of why certain people feel emptier after scrolling, even when nothing obviously bad happened. What's actually being taken from you in those quiet, invisible moments, and why the apps that feel the most harmless are often the most precisely calibrated of all. That's a different layer of this entirely.